guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abkarian. I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi. How's your week? How was Thanksgiving? Yeah, I released last week's episode on Thanksgiving, and it's weird. It's weird. Like, you know, I can see my like download numbers through my podcast hosting service, and like it was funny. If I had to guess, like half of you may or may not have been working on Thanksgiving and the other half weren't, because like my listenership on that day was like split in half, and like I can tell that you guys listen to this like while driving to work or like at work or whatever, and that's great. Like that's whatever helps you get through the day. But it was funny. It was like I could see when all of you guys went back to work because the download numbers spiked on the day everybody had to go back to work. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed your 4-day weekend or whatever it was, and I hope you ate lots of good food. I ate too much good food. Thanksgiving was fun. Hung out with the family. Then I invited previous Sad Dad guest Heath Reedy. His family lives like out of town, and so I was like, oh man, Heath probably needs something to do today, so I invited him over, and we hung out. He brought this gal that he's seeing, and she's like a real kick in the pants. I was looking at my phone for a second there because I forgot to silence it, and I just got booked on a really cool show. If you guys aren't doing anything on Saturday, come see me at Strummers. Oh, that's exciting. I just got some exciting news, like right this second. So then Heath and I, we over the weekend, we drove to Eureka, California, and that's like an 8-hour drive. And we did this really cool show at this place. It was called Savage Henry's, and if any of you guys have ever been to LA and remember, I mean, I say remember, it only closed like 6 months ago, but the Meltdown in LA, which was a really, really cool venue. It was a comedy. It was a comic book shop slash comedy venue. It was so cool. A lot of really cool stuff went on there, and it had kind of a Meltdown vibe to it, which I really, really dug immediately. And we did some shows. We did some shows with Cree Powell, who you also would know from a couple episodes back, and it was a ton of fun, man. We had so much fun. Met some really cool people. Wrote my name on the wall. That was fun. There's a picture of me doing that on Instagram. You can see me doing that. And so yeah, it was a good time. It was a lot of driving. I think we spent, because we had to come back the next day because we had a show that night, and so it was like we spent 16 of 24 hours just driving, but it was fun. It was really cool. Just some of the most beautiful scenery, maybe in the world. I mean, those redwoods up there, and you're crossing these bridges over these like crystal clear streams, and there's a guy out there fly fishing, and we're driving back in the morning, and the sun's like cresting over the hill, and like the fog's like curling up and over the mountains, over these gorgeous trees, and it was amazing. It was just kind of the bummer part was, I mean, it wasn't bad that I was experiencing it with Heath, but it was like we both lacked the like emotional intelligence and like vocabulary to put into words what we were saying. It was just like, so beautiful, bro. I'm glad I'm seeing this with you, bro. Like, it was fun. It was such a good time, and driving through some of those like small towns up in the mountains up there. There's a lot of carved bears. I noticed a lot of carved bears, and it's like, who are these bears for? It's not like you can sell them to your neighbor because your neighbor has a bunch of carved bears of his own. Who are these bears for? And like, they're all enormous. They're all like 8, 10, 12 feet tall. Are people buying these bears like tourists? Because I don't know. I mean, we drove up there in a Nissan Versa, and I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of Subarus. You can't fit that in the back of a Forester. Who are these bears for? I don't know. Maybe it's like a bear-based economy up there. They're just buying Snickers and Birkenstocks with wooden bears. I don't know. Who am I to judge? So it was a really, really fun week, and I had a great time doing that, and did some fun shows with a great guy out of Bakersfield named John Hacker, who I should have him on the show. He's so fun. And then last night we had it was actually a new guy. We hadn't worked with him before. Headliner last night at our show named Amir Khalil. I didn't do it I mean, not that it's a bad thing, but like it was kind of weird. Both John Hacker and Amir Khalil are like guitar comedians, and I just accidentally booked two guitar headliners back to back. It was just a weird thing. My partner Danny Minch, who you would know from his episode. He's just like, why are you booking guitar comedians? Are you going through like a phase, Dave? What's going on? It was fun, and and then last week did some shows with my guest today, Mr. Daniel Eachus. We did some fun shows together last week. We did our Wednesday show, Barmageddon, together. That was interesting. It was kind of an interesting crowd that night. It was like a lot of couples, and it was like the night before Thanksgiving. And like, this is like a barcade, that we're performing in. And there was all these couples there just playing skee ball and House of the Dead. I was like, this is, I guess, kind of a cute date night, I guess, night before Thanksgiving. And so, and then Friday night we did a show, Daniel and I, we did a show together, with, Darren Carter, the Party Starter, which was a ton of fun. So yeah. And then, I just got a lot of time to hang out, both doing this podcast, and then before we recorded it and after we recorded it. And, it was great. I hadn't really had a lot of like one-on-one hang time with Daniel, and it was great getting to know him. And, such a neat, thoughtful dude. And he's way further along in his comedy career than myself. So it was great to, kind of bounce some ideas off of him, career-wise. And he gave me some great tips as far as, what I should be thinking about as far as my next step in my progression and career. And it was really helpful. And I actually got a lot out of our conversations, both career-wise and also just getting to know the guy. He's great. You'll find out. This is a great episode. I listened back to it just this morning and really, really enjoyed it. So stick around for the outro. Daniel and I, we talk about a few things on this podcast, and I actually have updates for you on those things. I messaged him this morning to ask him about. So you'll listen to the podcast and then stick around for the outro. I'll address some things we talked about in the episode, in the outro, and then I've got a few housekeeping things to go over with you guys in the outro. So, all right, guys, let's just jump into this thing right now. Our guest today, Mr. Daniel Eachus. So you're in town Thanksgiving. You grew up out in Clovis.
Fresno.
You grew up in Fresno?
Don't you dare. Call me a Clovis kid.
Yeah, is that...
Is this raised up at all? Or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Why don't...
Yeah, that thing is kind of
that's good.
Sometimes. Yeah. It's kind of, I'll mash it on there. You grew up in Fresno. I don't know why I always thought it was Clovis.
Never. Clovis.
Yeah, no good.
Well, because it's like it's sports, everything.
Yeah.
I just hate Clovis.
Yeah, it's that weird...
They had money, and we didn't have money.
Right, yeah. What part of Fresno was it?
It was Central.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, you went to Central?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
It was interesting because people always... Because when I say like, oh, no, we weren't the rich school. They're like, oh, was it ghetto? I was like, no, we were it was like the edge of ghetto. Yeah. We definitely had ghetto kids, but then we had some rich kids. It was like... I think it was a pretty mixed...
Yeah. Because you said, I didn't realize it was Central, and you just have like so much more street cred in my eyes right now than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, we did have drive-by drills.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I only remember that though, like 2 or 3 times. Must have been like senior year or something.
They don't even worry about drive-bys anymore.
Yeah, they probably got apps to.
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah, there's that.
Millennials are so fucking lazy.
Like,
I don't want to drive by.
No.
Just gonna cyberbully these people.
Just gonna Uber.
Yeah.
Well, now they do active shooting drills. That's the new hot thing.
Yeah. God.
My daughter, she was telling me this story, like this anecdote, this cheerful little anecdote one time about like her friend that told this really funny joke, like while they were like doing an active shooter drill. And I was like, oh my God, like it's so crazy that kids have to like worry about that.
But that's normal also.
Yeah, that really is, like she's normal. And plus like the joke wasn't even that funny. I was like, this is just the saddest story. Like and so yeah, it's just nanners. But I don't know that we ever had to do drive-by drills, because I went to Washington Union, which is out in the sticks.
I don't know where that is.
Yeah, it's close to here-ish.
Was that what district?
It was its own district.
I was gonna say, I was like, I don't think we ever played them.
Yeah, I don't think we ever played. We played more like Kerman and Selma and like those schools. Okay. So yeah, we always had a really good basketball team. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, what kind of a kid were you? Were you like a?
Are we recording?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. We were just coming in hot.
I didn't know. I was like, we're still testing the mic right now. I was like, I think it works.
I just like ninja it in. Yeah. Yeah. Like, were you like a funny kid? Were you?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I still have older brothers. Yeah, so I was, the youngest boy and stuff, so I'm sure that has something to do with it. Mm-hmm. And, quiet, smart. I was always smart. Mm-hmm. I mean, cool. Yeah. I don't know if that's a surprise to you. If it is, keep it to yourself, okay?
Hang on to that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Put that in my pocket.
No, yeah, I was always a smart kid. I got, straight A's out throughout school and stuff.
Were you guys go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think you have to, I hope this doesn't sound like I'm a shitty person or anything, but don't you feel like you have to be pretty smart to be in the comedy, sort of? Like, not necessarily even if you weren't smart in school, maybe you were like a slacker or something, but you were still a smart person. Yeah,
there's definitely some like, you have to be observing things. Like, you have to be able to like take things in, and there's like a level of like critical thinking that goes into like processing that, for sure. Yeah. I don't know if it's like an emotional intelligence, or like a...
Because you have to I feel like you have to really understand a situation before you can joke about it. Yeah. Or at least the best jokes. I know somebody, maybe it was another podcast, somebody had asked me, like, if there are any jokes off limits. And I feel like if you don't, I said, if you don't know what you're talking about, then it's off limits. That's it. Really. Yeah. I mean, if you have something, it could be the worst situation ever, but if you know what you're talking, like really know it, then you're probably not going to say something stupid.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
The people who say stupid things usually don't know what they're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm hung up on the idea of emotional intelligence, but yeah, like being able to like chew that up and then like regurgitate it in like a palatable and like thoughtful way. Yeah, that's not easy, man.
Yeah. Because if I look at like my jokes that didn't work or anything, I can almost always go back and go, I didn't know what I was talking about. Yeah. Also, I was just trying to make a joke and it didn't work.
Right. Like, who is this for? Yeah. Do you still, even at the level you're at right now? Because like I know I have like premises that I think are funny, but I don't feel like I'm good enough to like really approach them in like the meaningful way that I probably should. Are you at can you take pretty much any premise at this point and make it into a bit, or do you still have like stuff on the back burner you're like, I'm gonna circle around to that?
I definitely have. I always tell other comic friends, I'm like 5 years behind on jokes right now. I have so much stuff on the back burner, and that keeps happening. The only thing that's gotten better is I've gotten better about knowing quicker if I should put it on the back burner or if I should keep going with this. Yeah. I think that's I mean, at least for me, the only thing that's gotten easier over time is being able to be not having to do a million shows before we figure out maybe I shouldn't be doing this joke for it's pretty quick now that I go, okay, I'm not ready for that, and I'll come back to it.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, I mean, I know I've wrestled with bits for weeks and months and just never get them to work, and then I'm like, I think I just need to like put this to bed for a little bit, and then I'll come back to it like a few months later. I'm like, oh, that's what it was. Like, this is why this joke didn't work,
Yeah.
So yeah, I just didn't know if that ever gets any better, but apparently it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, you just find tricks and stuff like that. I remember there was a bit I had about jousting. Mm-hmm. I still do it now, but when I first started doing it, it was pretty. It wasn't that small, but it was basically the premise of it isn't jousting weird? Like, that was the whole premise of it, which I knew there was something there, but I didn't know what. I just thought, oh, this is a weird thing, and I had some jokes, and I kind of it hit sometimes, didn't hit other times, and so I put it away, and kind of being done with it was just like, this isn't what I thought it would be.
Right.
And then years later, I went back to it. I saw it again in my computer files with all my jokes and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, it's not about jousting. It's like the premise of the bit is that this is how people used to date back then. Like, it's how we've evolved in dating is pretty crazy for as bad as we think we have it nowadays.
Yeah, right.
It's pretty good compared to what it used to be. So that became the bit,
right.
And it's like, bam, it hit just about every time. Then I was like,
great.
oh, okay, cool. I found what was there, but I knew something was there. Mm-hmm. And I think nowadays, if that would have happened, I would have been quicker about knowing you just need to figure out what the premise is.
Right.
But
yeah, and so you're growing up. You're the youngest of three brothers, and were you guys were you like a funny household? Like, were you guys was it just?
Yeah, people joked around a lot and stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I definitely I was big with The Simpsons, the Looney Tunes, a lot of Goofies. To Pee-wee's Big Adventure was a big movie for me. It's always so weird when, I don't know if you get people ask who are your influences, and you always want to say something profound, Carlin, Pryor, all that, and I'm always like, well, if I'm honest, it was Bugs Bunny and Homer Simpson,
absolutely.
If I'm being honest about it, those were the
funny.
people who first made me laugh and first made me realize what jokes were and stuff. So that was me. I was always a goofy kid, sort of, even if I was quiet in public, which I was.
Were you, were you the class clown at all, or were you pretty chill in the classroom?
I could definitely make my friends laugh, and it was one of those. It was sort of like a secret cool thing. I feel like that my friends knew I was funny, but nobody else knew I was funny.
Yeah. It's always the quiet kids you got to watch out for, man. All the funniest people I know were not the class clowns. They were the quiet kid in the back with his head buried in a notebook, doing God knows what.
Well, jokes, like you said earlier. It's really about observations and what you're taking in, and the class clowns, I feel like, were too busy talking to observe anything.
Yeah, that was me, dude. I was just the loudest kid in the class, and it was, but it was weird too, for me growing up, because, it almost turned into a comedy performance, because they, the teacher would say something, and then the whole class would turn around and look at me. I'm like, oh. I feel like I peaked in 8th grade when we watched Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And did you ever have to watch that?
No.
It's this movie where he's got to do this he's got to filibuster in front of Congress, and he's all sweaty and he's doing it for the people. I don't know. And then they brought in a bunch of food because he's doing this hours long filibuster. And I remember I'm like, whoa, so all that food could really filibuster. And that was my comedy career peaked in 8th grade. So dumb. What was were you ever? Obviously you mentioned Pee Wee Herman and Bugs Bunny, but were you a comedy nerd growing up? Was that?
I was big on sketch and movies and stuff like that. Stand up, not as much. Mm-hmm. I loved comedy movies. I would always watch Mad TV and Saturday Night Live and stuff like that. But in terms of stand up, I didn't get into it. I did get into it eventually, but it wasn't until high school. sort of, Jim Gaffigan's Beyond the Pale came out, and that was I started watching Comedy Central. I never really grew up with I didn't grow up with HBO or Showtime or anything like that, and I know a lot of the stuff was on that, so I would catch late night small sets or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, it wasn't until I discovered stand up on Comedy Central that it really went, oh, there's this other world of comedy out there.
Right. And you started pretty young. How old were you? You were 19?
I did my first show when I was 17.
No shit.
Technically, yeah. I was in a friend's backyard.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, and I did 45 minutes.
Shut up. Did you really do 45 minutes?
Because of Comedy Central.
You're like, this is how we do it.
Well, yeah, we were talking outside before this that when I started, there was no comedy in Fresno. I mean, I know there was before me and stuff like that, but I started in a moment where there was nothing.
Right.
And so I'd never been to a live comedy show. All I had seen were specials on Comedy Central. So it didn't even occur to me that, that you could do a quicker, it was like, you do, it's like an hour with commercials, so 45 minutes. That's why I wrote 45 minutes.
Wow. Yeah. Holy shit.
Which it made things easier because, just about all of it was garbage. But when I did that, and then I moved to LA. I went to school in Long Beach, and I did my first open mic where they're like, "Oh yeah, you got." I think the first one I probably did 3 minutes, and it was like 3 minutes. Yeah, I got 45. I can do this. And I had it still wasn't good, but a decent 3 minutes.
Sure.
Because the best 3 minutes out of 45.
Out of 45, yeah,
can't be that bad.
Right.
You would hope.
You would hope. And so, at what point did you end up coming back to Fresno then? Because you did your first real open mic in Long Beach.
Yeah, I lucked out because I did that one show which I didn't even consider. To me, it was just like a bucket list. Doing comedy once, that's it. Didn't think I was going to get into it again. And then I moved down to LA. And it started, I found out, there's live shows. I can go watch people or whatever. And I started going to this place called the Gas Lamp in Long Beach. And every Tuesday, it was, I don't know if you know any of those names, but it was Jason Collins hosted, who's absolutely hilarious headliner. Nowadays, I'm sure he was headlining then too, but Brent Morin.
No, I'm not familiar. I think the only dedicated Long Beach guy I know is Dakota Freeman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, these are guys. Brent's got a Netflix special. And he did an NBC show for a while. What's it called? Undateable or Undateable?
Wait, Brent Morin?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just rings a bell.
Yeah, and then Chris D'Elia was there every Tuesday. Yeah. So they were nobodies at the time.
Sure.
And I remember just seeing them every Tuesday being like, man, these guys are great. Is this what comedy really is? So then I met a guy, Dino Archie, who was actually Fresno, or he's from Fresno originally. And it turns out I knew his uncle. Oh, wow. And so we got to talking, and he sort of, kind of explained a little bit about how comedy worked and that kind of a thing. And then I was like, I should try some open mics. And so I did open mics and stuff for about 3 months. And then because I was in the dorms at the time in college, I had to move back to Fresno for 3 months or 2 months for the summer. Yeah. And then I got an apartment down there in Long Beach. But so I went 3 months of doing comedy in LA and Long Beach and all around.
Enough to get you really hooked on doing it.
Yeah, and then when I came to Fresno, they had just started comedy, and I was a veteran. I was a 3-month veteran at the time. They're like, oh, you've done it before?
This is wild.
Yeah.
You know how to plug this microphone in?
Yeah. I mean, there were definitely comics up here who had been doing it for years and who were great, but at the shows I was doing in the beginning, it was like, we didn't have any... There weren't they had plenty of people to headline, but they didn't have many people to feature and stuff. Right. Yeah. And so I got bumped to feature after 3 months because they're like, "Oh, can you do 10 or 15?" And I was like, "Oh, sure." I had 45 to draw from. So I for 3 months was just doing a ton of shows up here in Fresno.
Sure, and long sets too.
At long sets in front of real crowds. It was when Ty Palm started, and it was just huge. Yeah. And then I had to move back to LA and Long Beach to keep going to school. When I got back, everyone was like, "What the hell happened to you? Like, how are you like? You got all this time now, and you're like got all this confidence that seemingly came out of nowhere."
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like in their minds, I was just a guy who did it for 3 months, quit, and then all of a sudden came back.
How funny. Yeah.
So I would sort of toy with, every holiday I would go up to Fresno, and so I had an experience of what, kind of what it was like to do the road. Even though, Fresno for the most part is, I think it's a really good test for what the rest of America's like, even though we are close to San Francisco and LA and stuff like that.
But you're right though. Our audiences tend to be pretty purple, it's like we had like the other night we had like it's like a super young, kind of like woke group of people like right next to like a dude wearing a cowboy hat, and and like so it definitely is one thing I do appreciate about this scene is you figure out like what the middle is, and you kind of figure out like depending on the audience which way you can lean, and that's something that's come in handy, like especially with like when Danny and I took that tour out to Louisiana. I was like, I can lean I can get a little more blue with this crowd, and I can and that wasn't anything I would have known how to do if not for being in Fresno. I would have like one set and I'm like, these guys just don't get it.
Right.
And so I am grateful for that. Now you mentioned it a little bit earlier, the sketch comedy. But you do a lot of writing too. Like I think I've watched all of your Bigfoot Chasers.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah.
Nice.
It's really funny. Yeah. Is that, is that something that just kind of like came with the stand-up or developed, or was that something you've always wanted to do?
So before I got into stand-up, in my high school, we had like a daily bulletin that would air in front of me, and it was I went to a pretty big, Central's a pretty
it's a big
high school,
yeah.
and so this daily bulletin, it was like a big deal to be an anchor on this show, and they only had like 4 or 5 sets of 2 anchors that we rotated every day, and I was one of them. And halfway through my first year, one of my best friends, who wasn't my anchor partner, for long story, but he had to move away, moved to LA, moved away, and my other really good friend like couldn't do it anymore, couldn't be an anchor anymore, just because he didn't have a partner. I don't know. My teacher was like, "Yeah, there's got to be 2 of you. You can't do one.
We're really committed to
You'll
this.
be out of this." Yeah, he took his job very seriously.
He's chomping on a cigar while he's yelling at you guys.
Right. So I was like, well, hey, why doesn't he take my anchor partner, and why don't I be a field reporter? No. And he's like, this is the Daily Bulletin. What the hell are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, I want to be a field reporter, like kind of like on the Daily Show or something. They'd cut to the correspondent or something. And I was like, the only thing is I don't want to talk about the news. He's like, well, what are you going to talk about? I was like, anything that sounds like news that isn't really news.
That's funny. Yeah.
And he was like, well, we'll give it a shot, and if it's good, we'll keep doing it. And so I created this character who always wore a beanie, which is where that like came from. When I wasn't wearing a beanie, I wasn't him. That was the only difference. I literally did nothing acting wise. But it became really popular in my high school. In fact, it's so popular, a lot of people thought that was my real name, which
that's funny.
Cecil Thompson was.
Cecil Thompson was
his name. Everybody thought I was Cecil Thompson. In fact, when we did the yearbook, like senior bests, like best smile, most likely to succeed, I guess Cecil Thompson made the final 2 for 4 different categories.
Oh my God.
And the teacher wouldn't accept it because it wasn't a real person.
That's hilarious that he was more popular than
me. Yeah. My name didn't get written in at all. Cecil's did. But anyway, so that was a sketch show for, that's completely what it was. I would write the sketch in class. I had a cameraman. We'd go out there. I would film it. It was a little Sacha Baron Cohen-y at times, where I would interview people who weren't exactly in on what I was doing. But for the most part, it was just a sketch. I know at one point it got so popular, I did a thing called Win a Date with Cecil Thompson, where I had girls send in audition videos.
How funny.
And I think we got 13 of them.
Wow.
Which was kind of...
That's pretty good.
Surprising.
Yeah. That's...
And and then I aired the date live, which I had written this thing where I played the old switcheroo. I picked two girls and didn't tell either of them that I picked
That's funny. So the sketches you doing the
going back and forth and stuff
hilarious.
like that. And it was like a 15-minute sketch, which was way too long, but our school is super big on sustained silent reading. We had to do it every day, 15 minutes.
Yeah, we had that at our school.
And this is the first time they ever canceled it so that they could air my win a date.
Dating? Oh, that is great. Yeah. That's so cool, man.
So I was all about sketch. Stand-up wasn't even, I mean, I'd watch Comedy Central, but it was, I never even thought about doing stand-up at the time. It was like, oh, I like acting and I like... writing comedy stuff.
Right.
And then at the same time, I played jazz guitar. I was in the jazz.
I didn't know you played guitar.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And that was this just crazy, weird experience. Because like most, I was like, do I want to get into this story? But it's a good story.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah, that's what we're here for. Yeah.
So we were Division I high school. We were big enough. Football, everything was Division I. We were a big school, which means our jazz department, our music department was also Division I. So every Division I school, for the most part, has a big band, jazz band, and then a combo. And what that is a big band is like a 40-piece, 3 trombone players, 2 trumpets, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Jazz band. And those are usually the best of all the marching band kids. You have to audition to be in it. They're the best ones. They get to be in the big band. Well, the best of the best was the combo. That was like 5-person, 6-person, whatever you want it to be, jazz band that you'd see at like a smoky club in the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was like one of each instrument, drums, bass, guitar, or piano or whatever. So we were a combo by default. Only 6 people wanted to join the jazz band. There was no audition. We just happened to have the right instruments. Half of them were in my rock band. I was in a rock. I wanted to play a rock guitar first off, and it was like my bass player, my drummer, and we just used every class to just play our songs while the horn players practiced in another room.
Get out of here, clarinet. Nobody likes you.
And our teacher didn't really care or whatever. But at the end of my sophomore year, our teacher knew we were all pretty talented people, and he was like, "Hey, if you guys actually just like listen to jazz and try this, I think you could be pretty good at it or whatever." So he gave us some music and said, just over summer, maybe practice it, and next year, all these other Division I schools, they go to competitions, people get scholarships. It's like a big deal. Like maybe you guys can do that. So we're like, all right, whatever. So I used a couple band practices called over the horn players, and we practiced here and there. Long story short, we come back beginning our junior year, and we were really good. And we learned all this jazz music, and our teacher was like, holy shit, let's sign you guys up for some competitions and stuff.
Yeah.
So he did. Our school couldn't care less about the jazz department. We were talking about Clovis schools earlier.
Yeah, right.
Well, Clovis school, those kids have been playing since they were 2 years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
They all wore tuxedos to every competition, every single person. They had the nicest instruments.
Yep.
Took a charter bus to every competition. We did not have a charter bus. Not only did we not have a charter bus, our school didn't even give us a regular school bus. We took our teacher's Ford Explorer to every competition, crammed in there with our instruments strapped to the roof.
Jesus.
I mean, you couldn't write that.
Just
like
fucking Bad News Bears.
A cartoon image. And we had a lot of us had like kind of cheaper instruments or we're renting it from somewhere or whatever. We didn't have tuxedos. We wore, I never watched 2.5 Men, but I know just from commercials and stuff that, what's his name? The main, Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen, he
had the bowling shirt.
Yes.
It was like blue and white stripes. That's what we had. That exact shirt was what we all wore.
How funny. Wow.
Jeans and whatever we were wearing. So everybody was laughing at us coming to these competitions.
Sure.
And we took first place in every single
just fucking melted
against
faces.
hundreds of schools.
That's amazing. That's a great story. Yeah, dude.
So we got a little CD deal, and we got asked to play at Disneyland, New Orleans Square.
Wow.
I even Great America, the theme park. I don't know if it's still called that.
I don't know if it's still called.
They had something like 300 schools or something like that.
Yeah.
Come out, and we took first in that, and they gave one soloist award for the best solo in the entire competition. And I won that. I won the medal. So
holy shit, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah,
it's weird that you get exponentially better in 3-month chunks. Like,
yeah,
that's good.
I'll come back in 3 months and we'll see what happens.
That was perfect.
But it was that was my long way of saying, like, learning to perform in front of people, even though it was jazz music. We were playing on stages, and it taught me that something I could practice in my room.
Yeah.
Or write in my room or whatever, could be performed in front of all these people, and there was a result from it.
Right.
And at the same exact time, I was doing all these comedy sketches for the Daily Bulletin, and people thought I was somebody else, and it was this weird thing. It was just natural that, like, performance plus writing comedy equals stand-up.
Right.
Like, it just made sense. So I think I got into it kind of quickly and early on, not out of thin air, but because of those two things that had nothing to do with it, married each other perfectly.
Do you find, because I've got a musical background too, do you find that you think of comedy sometimes in terms of music? Like, do you think about like the phrasing? Like, I always think about delivery. Usually, like, musical terminology comes to mind. I'm thinking about like staccato and crescendo and
really?
things like that. Is that anything that's ever? Maybe it's just me.
No, I tried. There was like a point in time where I'd read a book about. Oh God, I'm blanking on his name. I'll come back to it. It was a comic who had a lot of jazz influence. Billy Crystal. His dad used to own like a famous jazz store in New York or something. I was reading a book about it. So it's like, I wonder if I can use jazz. And they would say, like, Billy Crystal would, he'd improvise a lot like a jazz musician. And I was like, I could think of comedy like that.
I could do that.
It didn't. I was like, no, this is different.
It's not an overarching theme to my comedy. It's just sometimes it's just more of a thing that I think about every now and then. But yeah, I don't know. There was a little bleed over for me.
Yeah, the only bleed over for me was setless. I always, like, for some reason, I had this crazy fascination with. I was always so excited to find out, like, a track list for a CD that was about to come out, and thinking about, like, and I would listen to it, and I'd be like, oh, that song first, and, like, the order of it was really important to me. To this day, I go on setlist.fm. I don't know if you've ever done, look up setlists from different
I've heard
shows.
about that.
Even if I'm not at the show, I'm like, oh, they started with that and then went there, and like, because I don't know, there's something about a good flow and
especially in a live setting, like, exactly what we do.
So I definitely think about my jokes in that way. And definitely when I recorded the album for stand-up recently, that was like the funnest part, was going, what's going to be first, what's going to come second. And I hit him with that, and then, like, bam, I got my single next.
Totally, absolutely.
We got the slow song towards the end.
We're gonna slow it down a little bit, folks. The lighters. The only we'll jump into the dad stuff here in just a second, but the other thing I wanted to ask you about was, like, at what point were you like, man, this comedy thing, I'm there, I'm doing it, it's time to hit the road? Like, was there like a specific time, or did it just kind of happen naturally?
Probably in like 3 or 4 years from now, I'll be thinking. Because
I mean, you're like a legit working comedian. I mean, you've got gigs. I mean, I follow you on social media. You've always got something going on.
I think one of the coolest things about stand-up comedy is also arguably one of the most frustrating things with stand-up comedy, and that is that there's so many little goals. There's so many checklists off of it. So the second you feel like, I finally accomplished this thing, I can finally feel like a real comedian. You get to the next thing on the checklist, and you're like, dang it, I'm not a real comic. Like, I mean, I obviously I don't know, but I would imagine there are big comics out there who have a couple Netflix specials or whatever, who are like, but I don't have 3. I don't have 3 specials. I don't have an Oscar. I don't have an Emmy for the special.
Imposter syndrome or whatever. So I mean, that's interesting. And I don't, and you're at the point where you've got like management and everything too. I mean, does that help with?
It was definitely cool. I mean, that was definitely a check off the thing. I was oh, cool, I got a manager, but it was like, but I still need, still need a Netflix special, or like
right.
There's so many little stupid goals. Even if it's like, I've never been in that club, and I like really want to get into that club.
Yeah, you got an album now though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's definitely been a really cool process just to see. One, just to force myself to go, what is my best stuff? Mm-hmm. Is it any better than that 45 I did on my first set?
that birthday party. Yeah. And are you at that point now where you, like, have you burned all of that material? Are you just doing...
No, I mean, I would if I don't think it reached enough.
Oh,
I mean, it's on XM and stuff like that, but I don't even have XMs. There's so many people. I can't walk down the street and if you were like, hey, do you know his bit about this? They'd be like, no. 99.9% of people would be like,
good. Yeah.
So it's like, I'm still gonna do my stuff until more people see it. But it did, it was cool. It was just a cool process to figure out how what bits I really like thought were me, you know, because there was some stuff that I did a lot that I left off of it that I was just like, I feel like this is too. I don't know if hacky's the right word, but hacky or like too hacky of a premise, even though it's like, it's my joke. I wrote it. I'm not going to steal anything, but it was just like, I feel like this has been done.
Yeah,
I feel like
a
people,
well-trodden premise.
Yeah, I had a joke about Ross sucking that I was just like, this doesn't feel like I'm telling anybody anything new.
Sure. I guess I could see. I mean, it's a funny bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it works great.
I still do it on the road and stuff like that.
It's so funny.
I was like, I don't.
Sure. I get it. Yeah. Well, you're Daniel Eachus. You are. Yes, that is you. This is a podcast where we talk about dads.
We're starting now?
No. We're 32 minutes in.
Oh, okay. I can't believe I have no idea what I said the first 5 minutes. I really.
Oh yeah, no, it was nothing
cut
bad.
that part out. Yeah.
It was all good.
I definitely said "fuck millennials" at one point, and I think that's on this.
If you really want me to delete
I'm
that,
technically a millennial, so it's fine.
I thought it was fun. It was yeah. Usually when we get into the dad part, I usually like to start from like the beginning, And so like, where did your dad grow up? Was he a Fresno kid too, or
he kind of, not really. He a Bay Area, born and kind of raised. I forget the age they left, but he was something along the lines of like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. Left to Fresno. And then pretty much grew up here,
Gotcha.
But it's still old enough to where he has a lot of memories from the Bay Area. But definitely has more memories growing up from Fresno.
Do you know what prompted that move from the Bay Area? Was it work or something for your grandparents?
Honestly, I don't think I've ever asked that.
That's okay.
I should have done way more research.
No, it's totally cool.
This.
It was just I'd never asked that question before. I was like, I'm gonna try. I'm
and you're
trying
like, never again. Maybe if you put away and bring it back in 3 months, you'll.
I'm just gonna sit on that question for like 3 months and it'll be fine. Well, that's cool. And do you know what kind of kid he was? Was he like a real outgoing kid or a sports guy? What was he doing?
Yeah, he did. Played. He had a very. I feel like. I don't know if classic upbringing is the right. I mean, he, did sports growing up a little bit. Wasn't like, it's not like he went to college or anything for it, but did like an average amount. Played drums. Was in like a.
Oh, he's a musician too?
A band, yeah, when he was a kid, but not. I don't even know if he really played after high school. At all.
Yeah.
I didn't know him as he never had a drum set at our house.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Do you know if he was any good? Was he any good, when he was playing?
Definitely decent enough to where they I know they cut a couple albums. Like he still has the old.
Really?
I mean
good.
not through a label or anything.
Sure.
Just got some studio time and done it.
Cool.
So yeah, he was definitely good enough.
Yeah. And did he go to Central too, or did he?
No.
No. Yeah.
They went to Hoover.
Oh yeah, Hoover's that's on like the ghetto side of Central. Like if Central's in the middle, like Central should be.
When they went, it was cool.
Oh,
nowadays.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Because if we're talking Hoover, whatever it was, I don't know how old your dad is, 30, 40 years ago. But yeah, it's probably kind of a nice school.
Yeah. He's 31. No, I'm just kidding. I wanted to see you do math for a second.
Yeah, it's not working.
How old are you?
My nose is flicking.
Yeah.
That's cool. And so was he like a good student? Was he a party animal?
For the most part, no. From like not necessarily like a straight A, but it didn't. Never had to repeat a grade or anything like that. You know,
Sure.
It was sort of like. I mean, I'll put it this way. When I went to college, I was the first. My brother had gone for like 2 or 3 years, but then like found more success starting in his own business and ended up not even really needing a degree, I guess.
Sure.
So I was the first one to actually complete college, out of my family.
Oh wow!
So it's kind of like, "Are you really our son?" sort of a thing.
So he grows up here in Fresno. He graduates high school. What does he do at that point? Is he just go straight into the workforce? He didn't go to college?
Him and my mom got married pretty early, like right after high school for the most part.
Were they high school sweethearts?
Yeah, they were together in high school. Yeah,
I like that.
He was 1 year older than her, and so when she was graduated, they got married because I think she was 19. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they just do it. They're
still together.
Yeah. And then I mean, how long is it before they have kids?
Not too. I guess she was. God, now I'm doing math in my head. It's forcing me to.
You want a paper towel for that bloody nose?
Yeah. Both sides. What is this orifice? Yeah, they had. Well, my oldest brother, not to get too deep on here, actually passed away when he was younger. So that definitely. He had leukemia and when he was 3.
Yeah, that's
so
rough.
it was. I mean, I never met him or anything like that. It was funny. I never like. It was almost like this sort of like mythical person growing up that I never met him. I never saw any of his stuff. I didn't grow up in the same house that he did. They moved and stuff. So it was just a story for me growing up, and it wasn't until later in life that I was like, oh, that's maybe why my mom is like very protective, or like different things affecting things in a different way. As you get older, you realize like, oh man, they like kudos to them, one, just like for being strong in the situation, but like staying together too. You can easily see stuff like that ripping people apart.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
That's wow. I mean that's brutal. And so I mean, so you never met. I mean, he got leukemia when he was 3. Is that?
Well, actually, he was almost 3. I'm trying to do math in my head. I think he was 3 or he was about to turn 3. I don't know when he exactly got it, whether it was 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I mean, he had it for a little bit.
And did they? And was there then a gap before they decided to have your 2 older brothers?
A little bit, yeah. It was like a year or 2, or it was a year actually. And then my oldest brother, my older brother was born, and then another brother, and then it was like, oh, we're gonna take a break. My mom really wanted a girl, so she was trying to
figure that out.
I think they, for the most part, I think they just wanted a boy and a girl, and it was like, boy, all right, we'll try another boy, and like, oh, great. And it was like, we'll take a break for a while. So my older brother, the next one, like, who's older than me, is 5 years older than me.
Oh wow, there is a big gap between us.
Yeah. And then finally after me, with my sister, and I'm like, okay, cool, done.
Done.
It's like, better everything on black, all on black, all on black. Fine, we'll do one on red. Okay, we finally got it.
Yeah, all right. And what kind of work is your dad doing right out of high school? Is he?
He's always in some form of construction. It's always like the job has changed, in sort of even like which area of it. Sure. It's like my grandpa, does like tilt-up engineering, sort of like big stuff like Home Depot, these big like concrete buildings and stuff like that. Yeah. And my grandpa was like actually really good at what he did. It was funny because like growing up, my grandpa just worked out of his house in like I want to say it was my dad's old bedroom, growing up. So it was like it didn't seem like anything big to me, and then we get older and it's just like, oh yeah, he was like helped design this program and like worked on, I think it was the Golden Gate Bridge for part of it.
Wow.
And was really good at it. So my dad, picked up on that stuff and learned. So he would do like part-time work there, but he would still do other construction stuff.
Oh, wow.
Kind of in the same field, but more like hands-on sales type stuff there. And but it was always in construction.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. And what kind of work was your mom doing? Was she?
She was. I mean, she had 4 kids to
I can
watch.
imagine.
So she. As far as me, she worked when she was younger, but
sure.
As far as when I was born, from then on, no.
Yeah, she's running the house. Yeah.
Dealing with all of us.
And so you've got. I mean, that's four kids. I mean, that's a lot of work. What's what kind of like relationship did you have with your dad? I mean, did you guys were there any particular things you guys like connected over and really bonded over?
It was cool. I think I could be completely wrong, but I feel like for me it was like, I finally get like my oldest, well, really both of them. My oldest 2 brothers were like, I think everything he wanted in sons in terms of like, just look at cars. My brother's first car was a 79 Camaro. My next brother, his car was a 65 Mustang.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And then it was like, let's be economical with you. And I get this like little tiny truck that like gets good gas mileage. And it was like, I don't think it was like, okay, let's be I had fun. There was a lot of problems with those cars, like expensive, just having to help my brothers, because we always bought our own cars, and he would like, if something major would go wrong, he knew enough about cars, we'd help.
That's kind of cool.
Try to save him some money and stuff like that. And then both my older brothers, although my oldest brother, like, he played guitar a little bit after I got into it, but for the most part, none of them were like very musically inclined or anything like that. So I was like the artsy musical one, where I felt like if I was the oldest, it'd be like, come on, play football, do something. But it was like, no, one of my older brothers played football, my oldest brother played basketball. They both had cool muscle cars. I mean, in a lot of ways, it almost seems nice in that there wasn't any kind of pressure on you to be anything. You could just be the thing that, not that. I mean, obviously, I don't know your dad. And I don't know the relationship with he had with your older siblings, and it sounds like they're pretty into the things too. But at the same time, too, it's just like you didn't have any, preconceptions about like how you should be. And maybe that's. Yeah, I mean, I really lucked out because I can pretty much do whatever I want. My oldest brother, he got married not too long after high school. Because I know he was like 2 years older, or he is 2 years older than her, something like that. And I remember she was a senior, and they had been together for a while, and then afterwards they moved out together and got married, whatever. So it was like, cool. My parents got a taste of like, married off one of the kids, and now they got 2 kids, a boy and a girl.
Right.
It's like perfect. And then my older brother, he's married 2 now, but he did a little more, I would say, like modern nowadays. He was like 29, I think, when he got married. And so it's like, oh, okay, cool, got a taste of that too. Whereas like, this one was younger, this one was like a little more how it is nowadays, sort of a little bit older.
Right. And then on the other side of you, they have the daughter, so they're getting the daughter experience.
Exactly.
So then, you're sort of
like, do whatever you want, kid. Like
this anomaly. It's like, oh shit, we forgot about Daniel.
Exactly. That's kind of how it was.
And
I was like, meanwhile, I'm just in the corner getting straight A's and everything, like
winning jazz guitar,
winning jazz awards, and like, and it's like, great, just do whatever you want.
And at that point, as a parent, you're almost like, what do I do? Like, because I don't want to ruin it. Kid's doing great over there.
He's doing fine.
Just set it and forget it. He's fine. That's funny. Did you feel like, for me, there was a big gap between like my older brother and me, and then I had a younger brother that was 2 years older than me, and like, I don't know if you experienced it. For me, like, my younger sibling always felt more like my real sibling, and my older brother felt almost like an uncle, like he was kind of like around mostly for the holidays and stuff like that. He was usually like out of the house, but it was also a 14-year gap between him and I. Just 5 years. Yeah, maybe that's different. But
it was a little, I mean, my oldest brother, so he was 7 years older. Or he is seven and a half years older than me. And yeah, he was. I wouldn't say like an uncle or anything like that, but like, you know, he was he's the cool one. You know, he's so much older than me. He was in high school and I was in elementary school. It was like he had a car and I was just a little kid. And it was like, hey, do you want to drive around the block? And it was like, whoa, this is cool. You know, I'm in a freaking Camaro. Like, this is awesome. And then like, even though my other brother was still 5 years older than me, he was a little more the classic brother. Like, we got in fights a lot. He was much bigger than me, worked out a lot, so he always won, but we would still get in arguments a lot. And so I guess in ways, I definitely didn't see my like older brother as cool as my oldest brother. Sure. Until I got older and realized, like, oh, the older brother, he's the one who's going to buy me alcohol. So, yeah, and then we became really close. I mean, we're really close now.
Oh, that's great, man. Yeah. And how much younger is your younger sister than you?
So she's 3 years younger than me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's kind of like, so they're 2.5 years apart, my oldest two brothers, and then me and my sister are 3 years apart. So we're almost like, it's like two pairs of kids. And they, my two older brothers, they grew up in a different house.
Oh, wow.
Than I did, and my parents moved right before I was born. Yeah. So it's like, it's almost as if they had a totally different childhood.
Yeah, that's wild.
That I did, yeah.
Yeah. And is your dad still doing the construction thing? Like, is he still in that
field? Same field, different job with it now, but yeah.
What's he do for funsies? What are his hobbies?
It's nowadays, like I don't know, just playing with the grandkids. He just got into brewing beer.
Did he really?
Yeah, that's like a
cool.
new thing for him.
Did he kind of like take to the grandfather thing really well?
Yeah. I think nowadays he's a lot more into, like, he was definitely going the route of just being like a not very fun old guy, and then like especially within the last few years was like, I don't know, we got into like tailgating at Fresno State games, so now he like loves that, whereas he used to never go. And you got the grandkids. You
mentioned that you're a Vikings fan. Did you get that from him?
No,
really?
But I kind of, yes and no, in the sense of me getting it from him. He, along with everybody in my family, has a different team, so it's like naturally I couldn't pick the same team. I remember when I was little, I was like, my oldest brother, he was into the Niners, and he was like, my dad's into football, but he also just gets so mad at games that he's like kind of not into football at all. But my oldest brother at the time was like really into NFL, really into the Niners, and he so I naturally was like, oh, he's the cool one. I want to be into the Niners. And he was like, no, get your own team. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to be into this team. And they're like, no, get your own team. Like, everybody was telling me to have my own team. And so at the time, it was the Vikings was like 97, 98. It was Culpepper, Moss, like those years, and it was just like, oh, I want that team. And then they weren't good for like 10 years after that. So.
That's funny.
It was a poor mistake on my part.
So everybody in your household had a different team?
Yeah, still to this day, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, which, looking at it's sort of like a passed on tradition, because my dad, it's so weird. We've all asked so many times, like, why he's a Chiefs fan. We're like, why the Chiefs? Yeah. And he has no reason for it, but I think it has something to do with, so he was born in Oakland and grew up pretty close to Oakland, pretty much in Oakland. So it's like naturally, oh, you should be a Raiders fan or something. But my grandpa is a Broncos fan. My grandma is a Chargers fan, and my dad's a Chiefs fan. They picked all three teams that are in the same division as the Raiders. They all hate the Raiders, yet they lived there, and my dad was born there.
How funny.
So it's like, I know that has something to do with it. He swears it doesn't, but it's like, I think you guys have got tired of seeing stuff, and we're just like, well, I want this other team, and so they all had different teams. So it was like, of course, now my family, we all have different things.
Did you talk to him after that Chiefs-Rams game?
I haven't gotten to talk to him.
Oh man, he must have been over the moon. That was an insane. I mean, it sucks that they lost, but holy shit!
I'm sure he's really mad at the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, by 2 points, and it was the first NFL game to go both teams over 50 points. And
yeah.
It's fucking wild, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, we took him up for his 50th birthday. We took him he'd never been to a Chiefs game. We took him Chiefs and Chargers. Cool. Yeah. And at the time, Chiefs were absolutely terrible. Got destroyed. I think the final score was something like 41-3. It was like,
why would you guys do this to me?
And he's the only one in the Chiefs jersey. The rest of us were neutral. I didn't even wear any Viking stuff. I was like, I don't want to be that guy.
He's just having fun.
Everyone's just like, you suck, and he's like, I know.
The worst birthday ever.
Yeah. No, we had a lot of fun.
That's good.
Could have picked a better game.
Have you tried any of his beer yet?
He made one batch and it was bad. It was God, I forget what my brother. I think my brother said it tastes like earwax, or it was like it had a weird taste to it, or like burnt hair.
We call that umami.
I'm sure there's a Harry Potter jelly bean that tastes just like it. But now he just made a new one, so that's a thing for Thanksgiving. Tomorrow's we're all going to try this second batch, which he tried some and he said, no, it's good. He said it reminds him of Samuel Adams. I was like,
okay.
You just named the beer, Dad.
the one beer none of us know like what it tastes like.
Yeah,
that's funny. And was he what kind of a dad was he growing up? Was he like a real strict disciplinarian, or was he kind of fun and loose? And
no, I mean, like as a kid I got the belt and I got spanked a lot and stuff like that, so it was like, but I don't think it was anything out of, I'm sure I was, well, most of the time I was being a smart ass. It was because I said something witty that was like, don't you dare say something clever right now, I'm mad at you. I don't think it was anything like abnormal,
excessive,
anything like that. So I can't say it was like too strict in that sense. For the most part, it was pretty loose, but at the same time, I think just having two older brothers, I think he just like knew all of the tricks and knew everything, and was just like, I'm not gonna try with this, I'm gonna try with I know you're gonna drink, I'm not gonna tell you not to drink, but I'm gonna tell you, like, to be smart, you're not allowed to drive while you're drinking or anything like that. It was like he already knew where to go with it.
I mean, that's cool. He sounds like a good dude, man.
Yeah.
I like your dad.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
This is the part of the show where I normally ask for a dad-out. So, I mean, is there any moment from childhood, any specific interaction with your dad that like really sticks out and feel like it's worth sharing?
Trying to think of this when I thought when the episode first started and we were just sort of talking, I was like in my head using that moment. That's why I was like, I don't know what I said, because I was like trying to think of something he said.
Or did you guys ever take any like fun trips too? I mean, I don't know. That's usually
I mean, there's so many like good memories I got. We went to space camp together.
What? You went to space camp?
Yeah, it was father-son space camp. Yeah.
I adore that idea. What was that like?
That was, I mean, it was cool. I was really into space when I was, well, one thing he did, and I don't know if it was exactly his idea, but I remember him the most. Whereas my grandma, pretty early, she inherited a bunch of money and decided, instead of holding on to this forever and then letting you guys inherit it later, let's spend it all on you guys. And every Christmas we would go on this crazy cool trip.
Yeah, that's fun.
Which was awesome because we weren't really a big trip family. We went like camping all the time, to the beach, like close places all the time. Went on drives and stuff like that, but never anywhere like huge. And so anyway, my grandma went to Disney World for a week with the whole family.
Wow.
And there was one day where I was 6, almost 7, where we went to Kennedy Space Center one day, which is super, and as a 6-year-old, it was just like, this is my new thing.
You have a space bit, right?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
So,
a few of them now,
yeah.
But yeah, we went to Kennedy Space Center, I thought it was cool, but I remember distinctly one morning my dad waking me up, and it was like dark. It was 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'm just like, why are you waking me up? What's going on? He's like, just come outside, Daniel. And I'm like, what? And I go outside, and everyone's already standing there in their pajamas. We're outside our hotel, and my dad's filming with his camcorder, which, I mean, that's one thing. I don't know what the future's going to be like with kids, but like my dad he was that dad with a camcorder, and like, I'm super glad I have all of those I have all those VHSs. They're
sure.
They're amazing. Some of them, how bad they are, how great they are. It's perfect. But he had his camera out and we were just like filming the sky, which I was like, okay, I don't know why you're doing this. Okay. And then all of a sudden, we just see this huge bright light. It was a space shuttle taking off.
What?
And just lit up the sky, and we're like, what? And I watched it, and then, like, at that moment, I was like, oh, I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm 6 years old. I'm going to be an astronaut. And so I don't know if it was my dad's idea to, like, oh, we got to go do this. But I remember specifically my dad waking me up to go see that. And
that's so cool.
And a year or two later, went to space camp. My grandma, again, she sent me and my dad because my mom thought I was too young to go by myself. So they found a father-son.
Space camp?
Yeah.
Did your dad like it?
He had a blast, man. He thought it was going to be... that goes back to the, like... I was the artsy, like, I feel like every guy, whether they're like show it or not, has a nerdy side.
Sure.
Absolutely. Some people don't want anyone to see it at all. Some people don't care at all. And I feel like, he was just that classic, like, beer drinking muscle car. I was in a band growing up, kind of dude, and it was like, oh, I have a son. Like, I got two sons who, like, I get to have a son who, like, I get to go to space camp with, and I think he was super excited about being able to show his nerdy side.
That's great.
And he loved it, man. We built rockets.
That's so cool.
Did all this crazy.
Oh man, that's a great memory. That's rad.
Yeah. It doesn't have a funny ending, but
no, it doesn't have to. It's it always has like funny or profound moments, dad moments or whatever. Funny's cool, but that sounds like a great memory. So that's awesome.
Well, he always had a thing like we went on drives a lot as a kid. Just sometimes like we would drive to. Do you know what Cassidy Fruta is?
Oh yeah.
We would just drive to Cassidy Fruta. It's like an hour and a half for a gas stop. Literally, we'd make a
pass.
It'd be like, it's Saturday. Let's go to. I mean, we would go look at model homes, even though my parents were like, no, we're not buying a house. We're just looking at model homes. Like we would just go do stuff all the time, which was something a lot of my friends didn't do. Sure. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily a money thing. It doesn't cost anything to go look at model homes. But it was just this idea of like, you got to get out and go see the world. And that was definitely something like I still take with me to this day. If I go on road shows or whatever, I do the weird touristy things or whatever, just because I think I got that from my parents wanting to always just kind of do the random thing. Yeah.
Just do the damn thing and just see what happens. I love that, man. Well, Daniel, tell the people where they can find you on social media.
I'm off the grid. I'm I live in a hole. And no, you can go on DanielEachus.com, EACHUS. I post all my shows, videos, stuff like that on there, and then any social media except probably Craigslist or something. I even looked the other day. I'm technically still on MySpace, so if you would like to add me,
that is wild.
I think we're all, unless you deleted your account.
And I think maybe you may or may not commit to this, but any Sad Dad listeners that add you on MySpace, will you put them in your top 8?
Oh, definitely. Okay. I'll make a top 40 for that. I'll do the top 100, which I never did before. But all my social media stuff is Dan Eachus. So website, DanielEachus.com.
I'll put a link to it in the show notes.
Dan, EACH.US.
Cool, man. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. I had a ton of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
And we're back. Daniel Eachus, everybody. He's great, right? Oh, so fun. So Daniel mentioned, because we recorded that episode the day before Thanksgiving, and he had mentioned in the episode that his dad had been brewing beer, and that he was going to make them try, he was going to make the family try like this new batch of beer, and supposedly it tasted very Samuel Adamsy. So I asked Daniel about that this morning, and Daniel said it was actually pretty good. He said his dad really did a good. He wasn't, and to be fair, Daniel wasn't sure if it was good because it was good beer, or I guess it was a very high alcohol content. Daniel and his brothers all got pretty sloshed off their dad's beer. So yeah, there's an update for you. And then also, I noticed the night that Daniel and I did that Barmageddon show together, he Daniel has his album recorded, and he sells his CDs and stuff, and I noticed he had his merch bag. He carries his merch into the shows with him, and I noticed that his bag was like a space camp bag. And I meant to ask him that night, and I forgot. But he carries his merch around with him in the bag that he and his dad got from space camp. And I just thought that was neat. So that was very cool. Guys, that's been our show. Oh man, it's raining out here today. It's so nice. So nice to finally put out all those fires here in California. It's just great. And really enjoying the rain this week. Forgot to mention that at the top of the show. Cool. If you guys enjoyed the show, if you could do me a huge favor and give me a rating and review on iTunes. Also too, I have a dadictote for you guys. Let me pull it up for you while I'm telling you about some other things. iTunes, the Sad Dad Patreon. You can support the show financially. Helps me out with some hosting fees. I'll put that link in the show notes. And then. And again, I always like to plug this. If you're in the greater Fresno, Clovis area, if you could just come out to a show sometime. We do free shows Sunday through Wednesday, and you can just pop in and see what that's all about. You can see me perform. If you want to come to one of our paid shows, as always, I'll give you a little Sad Dad discount, and just ask for me. And then I think that is everything. I got a listener that messaged me on Facebook with a dadictote here. I'm trying to pull it up. All right. Yeah, here it is. Cool. This is from Arthur. Arthur. I actually mentioned him last week. It was a cool call. I'm not going to give his last name. I don't know if he wants how he'd feel about that. But yeah, Arthur sent me a dadictote. So I'll just read this verbatim. On any long distance driving trip, Dad would not pull over to use a restroom to take a piss since we're making good time, quote unquote. And we and would proceed to piss in any receptacle in the car, then pour it out the window. With the wind factor, we would always inherently get piss splashed back into the car and oftentimes on your face. Well, there's a memory. Oh man, a little dad pee. That's fun. So thank you, Arthur, for that. And if you guys have any dadictotes you want to send my way, you can either hit me up on social media like Arthur did, or you can send it to saddadpodcast@gmail.com. If you're wanting to find me on the social medias, it's at Dave Abkarian on all the platforms. If you're not sure if you've got the right Dave Abkarian, look for the mustache. And that's it, you guys. I'm going to try really hard next week to have my daughter Abigail on. Again, it's been a while. She's been real busy with school, and I usually record these intros and outros during the day. But we do have Christmas break coming up pretty soon, so see if I can get her on, and she always gets a kick out of it, and I know you guys do too. So great. That is it. I'll catch you guys next week. Adios.